Yes, please continue.
Ma'am, only 17 group has been like they have uploaded the this case study, ma'am, the
Mm-hmm.
PPT and the
Okay.
video, but I
Hmm.
don't know about the rest of three
Yeah,
groups.
every group, it's okay, Chirag. Yeah, I think it's because every group has to take the onus to upload their, PPT and the Word file. And the video presentations, always one can, keep that in any one of your Google Drive, for example. Person can upload it in their Google Drive and share the link, and that link can be posted in the Word file itself, isn't it? So that could
Uh,
have been done, or else
ma'am,
you can do that even if I keep it open. Yes. Hmm.
ma'am, I have
Yes, please
created
tell me.
a Google Drive and sent the editing options to all the group leaders, ma'am.
Okay.
So I
Uh,
told to upload the PPT and the video in that Google Drive so that I can share that access to you.
okay, fine. One is PPT and Word file can be uploaded, was uploadable on LMS. All right,
Word,
and I have
Word
already
file
seen that. 126 have uploaded. Okay, okay. Within a few minutes, I think few of minutes I have seen some. No, 79 people have uploaded.
yes, ma'am. Word file
That
has to be uploaded in LMS, but the video is uploaded in the drive which I have.
yes, 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 yes. That can be done. That in that way, what will happen, Chirag? You need to kindly inform your batchmates that video uploading should be done group wise. So there should be only that many number of videos as there are number of groups. It should not be like for 126 or I don't know 100 or something, whatever is your full. So individual people should not upload. There should be one video file for each. Right?
Yeah,
I
so
hope
that's
everybody
that.
is clear on
Uh,
that.
I have received only 17 videos. 17 videos from 17
You
groups.
have received how many groups are there?
20.
Right. Can you hear me? There's a little 20 is the total number.
Yes, ma'am.
I'm not able to hear clearly. Okay. So pending whoever has not given, just share the link with me. Share the link with me on this thing in one of the Word file, I think, through LMS. That would be better, or through a message on LMS. Put it on LMS. It is better because it will be there. Okay, now a few things. Now next is tomorrow. We will have the presentation of the Ohio lottery case. So as we said, we will take approximately 3 groups randomly picked up tomorrow who will make the presentation in the class, and kindly make sure that your presentations do not exceed 15 minutes. I mean, no matter how much of exhaustive work you might have done, all of you kindly ensure that group wise all of you are ready. All of you, in the sense all the groups must be ready tomorrow, and we will do a random pickup of the groups. 3 groups randomly will be picked up. Each will get around 15 minutes of time to present. And what you can do is you can just have an idea about the coordination, how you're going to coordinate that if your group is called out. All right. So tomorrow, hopefully, we should be able to finish about 3 groups and with the question and answer. So, make sure that the timing is such that around 10 minutes you spend in the presentation. And since the case study is already known by people, others can feel free to, jot down their questions and answers or clarifications or any kind of counterpoints. So that it is in the form of a discussion, which can be done in the class during the after the presentation. So 10 minutes you can, keep a time for presenting your group's work on the questions for the case study, and around 5 minutes you can keep for question and answers. And it would be really very nice to see if people really participate in the question and answer, rather than thinking that, let's not ask questions so that when it is our turn people should not ask question. Please don't get into that. Kindly look at it in a very constructive point of view, that after each presentation of any case study, or during a discussion of a case study or a case situation or any kind of discussion that we have in the class, make sure that you participate well, any question, all questions are very valid questions, and there is no hesitation that should be there in terms of asking questions or seeking clarifications, or even putting your own point of view. And one thing I really need to make all of you, feel comfortable is that, even if your point of view is something which is very unique and it is different from the others, never hesitate, students, to point out your points of view, because what happens is it is very important to ensure that it is not only that we have opinions which others also have, or we seem to have opinions which are generally something which is sounding or seeming like what others are thinking, but it's also very important for each one of the students here to have their own points of view, also own perspective, some kind of unique aspect. Don't fall into that group think kind of a situation. So please feel free to voice out any kind of perspective that you feel needs to be shared during any class, any discussion, any case study. It's not just restricted to case study. Even when we are having the class, please feel free to do so. Similarly, you can always share your perspective, even if you're the only person in the 100 plus odd number of people in the class. If your point of view is only point of view that seems to be coming out, which is different from others, so be it. All right, please feel free to come out of your selves and share your opinions, share your views, share your perspectives, give your critical views. People might oppose it, people might accept it, that's okay. But it's very important to have your own point of view also with a rationale. So that is also part of the communication skill that you need to have. And also one thing more you need to remember is not every time everybody will accept, acknowledge, and appreciate your views, but that's fine. Because in business situation, what is important is, are you able to analyze a situation? Are you able to have your own points of view? Are you able to analytically understand certain situations and have a problem solving perspective? All right. And this requires a lot of courage in terms of the ability to independently think, utilize your knowledge, utilize whatever experience you have had, and use your analytical point of view to frame your perspective about a situation and propose a solution. That solution may lead to a successful outcome, may not lead to a successful outcome. If it is a successful outcome, very good. If it is not a successful outcome, it just helps you to understand which all other alternatives do you need to look at. So it's very important that while, for example, today, right now, we have around 78 or 80 people in the class, for example, and if you're having a discussion, each one of you must be in a position to have the courage to come up and talk about certain things. Or if you're called in, you should be able to voice out like, yes, this is my opinion. I feel this is how it is, rather than keeping silent, right? So tomorrow, 3 groups will be called in for presenting the case study. However, all groups must be prepared. I'm not going to let you know which 3 groups will be called tomorrow. That decision we will take in the class, and the modalities will be discussed in the class. So everyone should be ready. And I hope that people will not come out with any kind of excuses whatsoever. And another thing about teamwork here is also what is going to be almost simulated like a real life thing, is that even if 1 or 2 members in a group is not ready or is not able to come for the meeting or has not been able to participate, the group, when called in, must go ahead with their presentation. Now it is the owners of the team members there, who decide whether it is one member in the team who will stand forth on behalf of the team to present, or whether it is more than one or all the members. At least one member of the team must be ready to present, even if it is on behalf of the rest of the team members who for various reasons may not have been able to participate. But please don't come back and say that, because my other team members are not there, so I will not be able to present. So let's avoid all of these things. So tomorrow we will do the presentation. The next thing is the other case study that has been taken up, which is the Crocin case study, which I will just take up here. The purpose of sharing that case study is that you will have an idea about the ways in which the different kinds of research measurement instruments are used. All right. So if it is agreed upon about tomorrow's case presentation, if there is no other doubt, we will proceed with today's chapter discussion, which is we are in unit 3, and we have discussed before this various survey, observation, and experimental techniques. And I had told all of you that we will proceed with measurement techniques for research, which includes various type of measurement, techniques for measuring concept, construct, variables, and making sure that the operational definitions are executed in practice. And we said that we will have the different types of characteristics of measurements done and the different type of scales, nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio scales to be discussed. All right, so can we proceed with today's class, or is there any other clarification that needs to be done with respect to tomorrow's case study discussion or with respect to any other aspect? How about the internal exams? Do you have any kind of clarification for the internal exams? Are you clear with the syllabus? Are you clear with the syllabus part of it?
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
Okay. So I'm putting up this. This is you will have your syllabus, which will be from Unit 1 to Unit 3. All right. So I'm putting up the syllabus for all of you. Kindly have a look at that. So the second thing for today, which we need to discuss before we start off with the subject content, is the syllabus for your exams, internal exams. Are you aware when it is starting? Are you aware when it is starting?
Ma'am, from 14 or 15.
Yeah, right. Have you got the timetable or something?
Yes, ma'am, it's there.
No,
We
ma'am.
I'm sorry. No or yes?
No, ma'am.
No. Okay. Okay. So you'll get it soon. 1 minute. I'll just share this syllabus. All of you have seen the syllabus, right? Which is already put up in the LMS. Are all of you clear? The syllabus is put up on the LMS already before we began the class. It is already there in the LMS. Have you all seen the syllabus?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. We have seen it.
Yeah. First class, we had gone through the syllabus also. So your syllabus for your first internals will be Unit 1, 2, and 3. Unit 1, 2, and 3. Till whatever we have discussed. All right. And we are beginning Unit 4 today, which is not going to be part of your internal exams, but we are going to proceed with the syllabus for the completion sake. So today's class will focus from Unit 4, starting with Unit 4 today. So is it clear to all of you that the syllabus for internal exams will be Unit 1, Unit 2, and Unit 3. And I hope you are aware of the pattern of the internal exams. Are you aware of the internal exams pattern? So let me just share. I'm not getting any response. Are you aware of how the internal exams pattern of question paper is? Someone?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, Siddharth, right? Okay.
Yes, ma'am. It's section A, section B. Section B is case study, and section A is I answer any 2 questions out of 3. That's what
Correct.
was happening last semester. Yes, ma'am. And case study is the mandatory. Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, case study is?
Mandatory.
Case study is mandatory, which is part of Unit 4, right? Unit case study is part of the second section, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. So is there any other doubt as far as the details for the first internal goes? So are things clear now? One is tomorrow we will have the presentations group wise for the Ohio Lottery case study, and we will have discussions. Second thing is the internal exams syllabus is Unit 1 to 3. And you are familiar with the pattern of the question paper. The pattern of the question paper remains the same, section A and section B. Section A has to answer 2 questions out of 3 and each of 5 marks. And section B is a case study with 2 questions which will be there. All right. So your syllabus for internal exams, Unit 1, 2, and 3 of your syllabus, of your entire course syllabus. All right. With that, I will move on to today's class. And for today's class discussion, first of all, I'm sure that all of you have seen the Ohio Lottery case study, and we just will also have a look at the other case study, which is the Crocin case study. One second, let me just share that screen with you. So have all of you had time to go through the case study on Crocin, which has been taken from Rajendra Nargundkar textbook? The case study has been taken from Rajendra Nargundkar textbook, which is a reference textbook for all of you. Have you had a time to go through the case study? I need few answers in the chat box. Kindly unmute yourself or put your answers in the chat box, please, and let me know whether you have had the opportunity to go through the case study that has been sent across, which is on Crocin, which was regarding some market research study. Have all of you, have some of you, have you individually gone through that case study or not, is what I'm asking.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am.
No, ma'am. Okay. So, because the deadline was not mentioned, right? Okay, no problem. So now this is what you see on the screen. I hope you can see what I put out on the screen. Please let me know on the chat box if you're able to see this. So this is a case study, which is from the textbook of Rajendra Nargundkar, which is a reference book for your syllabus. And what you see here, you have a lot of these textbooks in the library also, but since you're not able to access the library as of now, so this scanned copy has been sent across to you for your academic reference. Please don't upload this anywhere else. Please do not upload this anywhere else. It is only meant for academic reference purpose. All right. So this is about a case study pertaining to Crocin, which is one of the drugs. People are aware of Crocin? Please have your answers in the chat box, please. Quickly, have you heard of this brand, which is up for the case study today? Have you heard of this brand, Crocin? I'm sure you have.
Yes, ma'am.
Yeah, okay. Next is, can you all tell us on the screen, on the chat box, what is it basically used for? Do you have an idea about what is it used for? Uses. Next thing is, which are some of the parallel, which are some of the other brands which are used for the same purpose? Yeah, painkiller, headache, all that. Yes, very good. Anusha, Manoj. Yeah, others who have answered, Siddharth, Ashil, great. I'm seeing some of the names today, which I normally don't. Yeah, Shreyas, thank you. Sudarshan, very good, thank you. Yeah, so paracetamol, okay, right. So you have a fair idea about the pharmaceutical product being mentioned here. And what is the purpose of the research here? Now, this is a particular case study, which is a little bit of, to give you an idea about the purpose of using a research problem and blending the research techniques, right? So headache and fever, right? All right. So there are some research objectives for this particular case study. Now this will basically detail the purpose of doing this research work. There are some questions at the end. So if you go through the, if you really go through the entire case, it looks like this. There's a research objective. Okay. The objectives of the study were to find out the impact of the advertisements, Crocin advertisement on the sale of Crocin. And the company had claimed that the sales of Crocin had increased 10%. Right, and they have done it in 2 regions. Which are the 2 regions? It's mentioned in the case. See that and put it in the case box, in the chat box. And one of the other objective of the study was to find out if the commercial had affected the consumer or the influencers. So in this case, there are 3 stakeholders here: consumer, the doctor, and the distribution channel, which is your pharmacy or the chemist. So the research here is trying to find out something pertaining to the brand from 3 stakeholder groups, which is consumers, doctors who refer the drug, and the distribution channel. And the third objective of the case is to find out if the commercial of Crocin, that is your advertisements, okay, marketing advertisements for Crocin had in any way encouraged self-medication. All right. So these are the 3 objectives. So any research will have some objectives. So you can see that in the case study also, as you have seen in the Ohio Lottery case also, there were certain objectives behind doing the study. Yeah, Sudarshan has mentioned it is in Hariharan, Davangere. Very good. Very good. Now the methodology used. So what kind of methodology has been used for this particular research? So the basic methodology has been the questionnaire method. So when do you use questionnaire method of collecting data? What kind of data collection is it? Can you please put your answers in the chat box? Kindly participate, because this is also a way of understanding what you have done. It's a kind of a recap of whatever we've done from the first unit to the third unit as well, and continuing with today's unit, which is unit 4, relating to measurements. So what we have seen is this research case study here about Crocet is following basically whatever we have discussed earlier, which is any research must be having some research problem, should have a kind of a data collection purpose. There should be an objective behind doing that, and the research objectives are mentioned in this case study also. There are 3 case studies here, and the reason for doing this case study is outlined in the form of objectives, because that would be like goals, right? Like what do you really want to achieve through the case study? And the methodology of collection of data has been mentioned in the case study as a questionnaire method of collecting the data. And I've asked you the question that when you are using the questionnaire method of collecting data, what method of collecting data is it? Yes, Manoj has mentioned it is a primary data collection. Yeah, please ensure that when you're writing the answers, kindly make the answers visible for everybody. So send it to everybody. Don't only send it to me, because otherwise people will not be able to see that. So Manoj Kumar has directed the message to me. So I think all of you are not able to see that in the chat box. So he has mentioned that questionnaire method of collecting data is a primary data collection method. Yes. And any other method? What are the other methods of collecting data? Quickly, let us recap. Can all of you tell us? Can all of you or some of you mention in the chat box or unmute and tell us? What are the methods of, what are the other methods of collecting primary data? Yes, Shashank is saying quantitative data, fine.
Ma'am, secondary data.
Secondary data, yes. Primary and secondary data, 2 ways. So who is this?
Anita.
Anita, yeah. Kindly mention your name. Yeah, Anita, thank you. What I'm saying is, in primary data collection, what are the methods of collecting data? So we are doing a quick recap also, because your internal exams are also going to come up soon. So primary method, primary data collection method. How can you collect data? You can go ask people with a questionnaire. What is that called? Personal interview. Yes, Chandan is saying personal interview. Yeah. What is the other name?
Survey.
Personal interview.
Survey,
Interview.
ma'am. Survey.
Survey. Yes. Who said that? Very good. Omkar, I think so. No. Okay. Harshit. Yeah. Yes. Nitin. Observation method. Yes. Apart from survey. So survey, all of you have mentioned. The next is observation. Nitin has mentioned. Very good. Using local resources, yes, local or otherwise also, but observation is another method of collecting data. Very good. What is the third method of collecting data? Primary method of collecting data. What is the other method? So survey is done. Survey you have mentioned, questionnaire method of collecting data or doing interviews. Observation is another kind. What is the other method of collecting data? Survey, observation, and what can you do if you want to find out causal method? What is causing something? Is advertisement going to influence people's perception towards a product? If you want to find out if a training program is going to influence people's skill building in a company, you want to find out if, yeah, very good, Rakhi, thank you. Experiments, right? Yes, experiments. Harshit C is talking about past records. Yes, past records would be observation method of collecting data, which is part of the observation method. You can collect the data and see that. Yes, Shashank has mentioned experimental method. Very good. Raki has mentioned experimental method. Yes. So apart from the survey, observation, and experimental methods, what are the, is there any other way that you can collect primary data? Is there a way of doing primary data collection? Survey is one, so observation is one, experiments is one. Any other methods? Documents and records collection, okay. Any other method? Feedback from customers, yes. So can you talk to them individually? Can you talk to them in groups? You've seen some of the methods of collecting data in that Ohio lottery case study also. Metaphor elicitation technique. Yes, focus group. Very good, Sudarshan. Yeah, indeed. So email, telephone can be survey method of collecting the data. You sending across the questionnaire and all that. The focus group discussion can be there, right? What is the difference between focus group and individual interview or the in-depth interview? Focus group discussion, how many people can be there in a focus group discussion? So these are basically what? These are qualitative methods of collecting data, because you're collecting data which is not in the form of any particular scale or anything. It is in the form of a discussion. So focus group discussion, Definitely, it is like a group discussion. Around 8 or 10 people will be there with a topic of interest moderated by the researcher or someone who's an expert in the field, and you're recording it and getting the inputs, right? Kind of techniques for eliciting people's feedback. And the other is individual interviews or in-depth interviews, which could be, on a subject moderated between a researcher and a particular person of interest who's your respondent, right? So there can be qualitative methods of collecting data as well as quantitative methods of collecting data. Then primary and secondary. And under primary, you have survey, observation, experiments, and all of these qualitative methods also. Secondary methods of data would be all the published data, which is already existing, which would have been done by some other researcher or based on some other published work of research done prior to the current research being conducted. All right. So coming back to the Crocin case study. So this one is using a questionnaire method. Now, what have they done in this Crocin case study? They have devised 3 sets of questionnaires for the purpose of finding out the information. Information for what? For their research objectives. There were how many research objectives in the case study? There were 3 research objectives, right? Was there 3 objectives? Right. So first was to find the impact of Crocin on the sale of Crocin. Focus was to study about the if there was any impact about the commercial of Crocin on the consumer, the doctors, and the distribution channel, and to find out if the commercial of Crocin had in any way encouraged self-medication. Now, if you look at the broadly, I have shared the entire case study with you in terms of what was required, what was the data that they collected through the questionnaire, and how they did the analysis. That is for all of you to see it. You can look at it later. Now, if you look at the screen, this is a questionnaire for the consumer. What do you observe in the questionnaire for the consumer? There are some questions which are asked and there are some options which are given, right? So what kind of questions are these? Is it a closed-ended question or an open-ended question? What is happening? How does question number 1 look like? Or how do question numbers 1, 2, and 3 look like?
Close-ended, ma'am.
Yes, Raki, thank you. These are closed-ended question. They look like what? They look like your MCQs. Is it possible? Do you find some similarity with the MCQ kind of format of asking questions? MCQs, you remember, multiple choice questions?
Yes.
Yes. But in this case, what is happening here? There is no definite correct answer because everybody can give their point of view. So what do you see from question number 1, for example, students? What are you able to observe? What is your observation from question number 1? Kindly put your answers in the chat box. If you have a fever, what would you take? Crocin, Calpol, paracetamol, others, right? So this does not need to have any specific correct answer. Everybody can put in their choices. But what is happening? What is happening here? It is a closed-ended question. Okay, somebody might say paracetamol and somebody might, yes. So options, people can give various options, right? So when you have these kind of options, normally this kind of scale is called as a nominal scale. So when we discuss about scales, you will realize nominal scales are actually category scales when you are categorizing the groups. All right, here, if you find question number 2, what is happening again? There is a question that has been framed and again, there are some options, just like question number 1. Now, my question to all of you is, what else do you think is this? Question number 1, question number 2, question number 3. You have understood they are asking different questions. You can also appreciate the fact that question number 1 is different from question number 2. Can you understand that question number 1, 2, and 3, for example, are asking 3 different questions? Yeah. If they're asking 3 different questions, my first question to you all is, why do you think they're asking 3 different questions? And the questionnaire, if you see, for example, it's not only just 3 questions, there are more than that. So my question to all of you is like, why do you think these questions are being asked in this particular case study? Why do you think these questions are asked? So what are some of the other questions? Look at some of the other questions on the screen. If you look at some other questions on the screen, please look at the screen. There are some questions like, have you seen the advertisement for Crocin? And the options are only 2, yes or no. Right? The advertisements, newspaper, magazines, chemist shop, television, and other things. Right? On the basis of the advertisement, have you prescribed Crocin to your family or friends? This is for consumers. It's asking about whether you have referred or you really asked people to go with that. Question number 7. It is about awareness. Are you aware that crocin is available in syrup form specifically for children? And question number 8 is about if you are aware, how did you become aware of it? Please specify, right? So yes, Anusha is saying that the question, my first question she is answering is that all these questions are being asked to know the wide variety of opinion. My question to you, Anusha, and all in order to know the variety of opinion of people. Next question, why do you need to know the wide variety of opinion? Why do you need to know about people's opinion? Is there some purpose? How much people know about crocin? And why should you want to know about how much people know about crocin? When I'm asking this set of questions, what I'm trying to help you to grasp or appreciate is that these questions, like for example, if I share a particular case situation with all of you, and I ask you to make a question, I'm sure you will also start making questions, right? You will start making up a question and giving some options and all of that. Why would you do that? So Raksha is saying to understand the customer's view and where does the brand stand in the market. So my question to Raksha is also why? If you say that, yes, these questions are being framed in order to understand something about the customer, my question is, why do you want to understand that? Raki is saying, evaluate the impact on customers. Anusha is saying, get the data required for the research. Very good. That is the main point. You're going to ask all these questions, whichever is relevant in order to get the data required for the research. So you have to keep going back to your research problem. You have to keep going back to the research objectives and understand what is it that you need to solve the research question that is of interest to the researcher or to the sponsoring organization. And in order to understand that, you have to understand what is the question? What are the questions that I need to ask, right? So the questions are in fact going to help you to get some information, right? Now, before I go to the next question, there's one more intermediate question I want to ask you all. Can you see question number 8, students? Question number 8. Kindly please focus on the screen on your computers or on your mobile phones. Please look at the screen, please. Question number 8. What is the kind of question number 8? Yes, in the process, Bhanu is saying to know competitors. Yes, you need to know all of that because you need to understand how to get the data for the research objectives. Question number 8. What kind of a question is this? Question number 8. Yes, Raki is saying open-ended question. Have all of you seen this? Please focus on the screen. Question number 8 on your screen. So it is an open-ended. Why is it an open-ended question? Why is it an open-ended question? Do you see the options like you're seeing before that? Say question number 7. How many options are there? There are 2 options, right? Yes or no. If you see question number 5 above that, question number 5, what do you see? There are how many options there? There are some 4 options there, right? Yes. So why is question number 8 open-ended? Because, correct, Raki and Anusha are saying that no multiple choices given. It's an open-ended. It's a question after which people can answer in their own way. They can answer to whatever extent they want or whatever it is that they want to mention, however short or long that might be. And because there are no options given within which the respondent has to restrict the answer, it's an open-ended question. All right. So good. So what you have seen here is that there's a set of questions which are made for consumers. Now let us look at the questionnaire that the company has made for doctors. So what is it? That this is data going to be collected from doctors, which is a different segment. So have you seen the kind of questions that they have made? What drug do you prefer to prescribe for fever? Because doctors will be seeing patients, and there are a couple of these questions which are also there. Question number 1 to 6. All right. And there's some set of questions which are there for retailers. All right, which you can see on the screen. Please have a look at the screen. Now, my next question to all of you is, what are these questions called? You remember we have discussed about constructs, variables, and then concepts, models, and all that. Each of these questions that are there in a questionnaire, which you ask to a respondent in order to get their answers, all right, or whatever question you have based on which you go to collect data through observation, or whatever it is that is a question that is there based on which you do a hypothesis and then you do experiments. Okay. What is this individual question? What are these actually? So you're saying questions are there to help us to get the data. Get the data from respondents, then you will analyze the data and then you will get the information required is what you're saying. And what we are seeing with today's case study is that this case study for Crocin pharmaceutical drug has certain research objectives, and based on which this these questionnaires have been prepared, one for the consumers, one for the doctor, questionnaire for the doctor, and one questionnaire for the retailers. But please mind you, it is not just you're going to sample one consumer and one doctor and one retailer. No, there are 3 sets of questionnaires for 3 sets of groups, but different numbers of people will be sampled for that. My question to all of you is, what do you call these questions? What are these called? Is it a concept? Is it a variable? Is it a construct? Is it a hypothesis? What are these questions actually, which are helping the company to get the data? You know, this questionnaire for retailer, for example, question number 1, what is the largest selling brand of paracetamol? Second question to the retailer, have you seen the Crocin commercial? Yes or no? All right. Question number 3, if yes, how has the commercial affected the sale? So my question to all of you is, can you please tell me, what are these questions? Each individual question is a, fill up the blank. Let me repeat myself. Each question in this questionnaire is a ... Please fill up the blank. Yes. Tell me.
Constructs.
Constructs, not really. Yes, please, can you see the, Rashmi, can you please post the message to everybody? It has come only to me. Yes, Rashmi, can you kindly post the message to everybody? You have posted it only to me. Please see the chat box. Rashmi has answered the question correctly. So each question in the questionnaire is a, she has answered it. Please see the chat box, all of you. Please see the chat box and rewrite it. What is the answer? So my question, yes, Rashmi has answered. Thank you, Rashmi. Thank you very much. Very good. You have answered the question correctly. Each question in the questionnaire being discussed now is an example of a, now somebody will unmute and tell me. Rashmi, you unmute. Is what? It's there on the screen. Very good.
Variable, ma'am.
Variable. Very good, Shreyas. Thank you so much. Rashmi has not unmuted, but she put the answer first on the chat box correctly. Yes, each question in the questionnaire is a variable. Now, all of you feel free to, kind of ask me, why is it a variable? Why is it not a construct? Why is it not a concept? Why is it a variable? Why is it a variable? Are all of you convinced it's a variable, or somebody has any kind of doubt or any kind of, clarifications to seek? So it is something that we're collecting, basic unit of collection of data. It is about something that we need to know about, some characteristics, something about the event, something about the object. So if you see, each question is different, and we're not asking 2 or more things in a question. So for example, if you see on the screen, questionnaire for the retailer, what is the largest selling, which is the largest selling brand of paracetamol? What is this variable? This is about the largest selling brand. The options could be Crocin, Calpol, or others as mentioned by the researcher, right? If you look at question number 2, what do you think is question number 2? What is that variable actually? Have you seen the Crocin commercial? Absolutely, Rashmi. Yes, variable, because it varies from each person's perspective. The answer will be different. So the question that you're asking is about a characteristic, and that characteristic could have different responses from different people. Right? Yes. So question number 2, what you see on the screen, questionnaire for retailer. What is the difference between question number 1 and question number 2? Question number 1 is about to find out from the retailer, from the pharmaceutical, the vendor, the chemist, which is the largest selling brand of paracetamol that they are not aware of. The second question is about if they have seen the Crocin commercial. So the 2 questions are different. The variables are different. So second thing is about whether they have seen the commercial. And third is about a different thing, whether the commercial has affected the sale. All right. So after that, the case study goes on to describe what they have actually collected and what is the kind of difficulties that are faced in the field and the kind of analysis that has been done. All right. So this analysis part we can look at later. You can all go through this case study afterwards. You have a look at the entire set of the pages that have been sent across to you from the first to the last page. So right now, what was of interest to us for today is to understand that depending on a research problem and the the research objectives set out. Perhaps for a given situation to collect data from 3 different groups of people. And what they have done is they have tried to collect the data from the consumers, from the doctors, and from the chemists. And what you have seen is the different formats of making the questions, which is the closed questionnaire, that is your closed questions, and your open-ended question. All right. If you now look at a different kind of a case study, if you remember Ohio, not this one, sorry, Ohio lottery case study, which all of you have just completed. Do you remember there the method of using the data collection method there? Can some of you remember? How was the data collection done there? Ohio lottery case study. Why are we looking at that? Because we said that the measurement scales that we're going to talk about is nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio scale. So first of all, before going into the theory part of it, we wanted to understand how it is being used in practice. So let us look at the Ohio lottery. Are you able to see the screen now? Yes, Rashmi is saying correctly. Yes, in Ohio lottery, a lot of the variables were used and it was interval scale. Absolutely. So what I'm putting up on the screen now is the other case study. So the other case study, if you see on the screen, is the Ohio lottery case study, which all of you have discussed and analyzed, and you have put up your answers. So here is an example of interval scales. Why? Because it is the answer options are ranging from certain intervals, say for example 1 to 7, and there were some statements here. Again, can I ask you some question? What kind of question is this? Is it a closed-ended question or is it an open-ended question? The kind of questions which are used in the interval scales of the Ohio lottery case study. Attitudinal ratings, reasons not to play, low interest, all of these, right? There were a lot of the scales, items in the scales that have been used, fun and excitement and all that. I'm asking the question, what kind of question do you think is up on the screen now taken from the case study? Is it a closed-ended question or is it an open-ended question? This interval scales. So this is an example of an interval scale. And yes, all of you are mentioning correctly, closed-ended. Nisarga, Shreyas, Sudarshan, Chandan, very good. Anita, right. And Rashmi. Yeah, this is interval scale which is used. And this is again an example of a closed-ended question. Right. So what you are seeing from both the case studies, therefore, that is the Crocin case study that has been sent across and the Ohio lottery case study. And that is the reason we use case studies actually, so that you actually can see how things are used in a particular given situation. Right. So this is again an example of a closed-ended question using interval scales. All right. So we will close these case studies right now and we will proceed into the theoretical part of it. Now let us look at the quick look at the theoretical aspects of the measurement aspect of research. So what we are going to see is that to indicate certain similarities or differences. All right. And to do that, you need to do data collection with different kinds of scales. Now, when we look at that, we also need to understand the concept of measurement error. But let's not get too worried about this right now. We will look at how it differs from the Okay. I hope you're able to see the screen. All right, so we continue from where we left off. So while discussing about measurement techniques, few things which you need to remember is to understand concepts, how various concepts will be blended to form a construct. For example, if you're talking about a loyalty, or you're talking about consumer decision making, or you're talking about employee motivation, or any of such things, there is a construct, several things which will make up a particular kind of a model, and variables will be that unit of measurement, and operational definition will have to be done. And when you do the measurement in research, you need to understand there should be a measurable phenomenon. For example, in the Crocin case study, what were we trying to find out? The case study was highlighting that they wanted to measure things about whether advertisements for Crocin were impacting sales, whether Crocin brand was impacting the customers to understand how it is helping self-medication and stuff like that. In the Ohio lottery case, you have understood that they wanted to understand how they could encourage more people to participate in lottery, because that had an impact on contribution to public school funding. Right. So you need to understand in measurement also that how do we do the mapping rules, and how do we apply the mapping rules to the phenomena. So for example, if you want to, what you see on the screen now is that, for example, if you want to measure something about gender, right, then there are certain things that you need to measure and put across. You also perhaps want to understand something about different kind of attendees, different kind of people. So you need to be able to understand that if there are different kinds of people, the gender will be different. And so how do you see whether the sample elements, what about the sample elements do you want to measure? Do you want to find out about the characteristic? And then try to make sure that if you want to find out about these characteristics in an empirical manner, which is to measure them, how do you really then ensure that the mapping should happen in such a way that there should be a way of capturing it in a symbolic form. All right. So for example, genders, we normally will capture in the form of male, female, transgender. Nowadays is also an option in all of these. For example, if you want to then classify people, respondents in a study based on gender, then you will find out how many male, how many female. So that also goes to that the way in which you collect the data for the empirical measurement will also be influencing the kind of data analysis that you end up doing. Right? You look at the screen, styling characteristics. About styling, something is about, say, satisfaction, something is about motivation. So you need to address those characteristics in a manner in which you will be able to define the different categories and understand how you can put people's choices into those categories. All right. So in a measurement model, what happens is we will relook at this model once again. It is also known as a true score model, wherein the measurement that we do in research based on a sample, the statistics might be different from the actual population parameters, which is a measurement of the population. So the difference is going to be something which is of importance to see whether the measurement that you make out of a sample must not really actually be varying too much from the population. The purpose of doing the research is that even if you're using a sample, the purpose would be that collect the sample in such a way that the measurement from the sample should be able to almost correctly reflect the measurements of the population. So there has to be an inferential statistics that is possible to be there in order to ensure that we are able to generalize the results from the sample to the population of interest without as much of error as possible. Now, when we are looking at the different scales of measurement, there are actually 4 different scales of measurement broadly that are there. One is the nominal scale, one is the ordinal scale, interval, and ratio. So when it is nominal scale, it is basically classification. Like, for example, we've seen in different questionnaires just before we started this in the case study. For example, if you're capturing gender, male, female. So there are 2 options. Or do you like something? Do you like Crocin? Yes or no? So this yes and no, these 2 options that you're doing is a classification. Or even if you're giving 4 types of answer option, right? For example, which is a painkiller that you use? Crocin, paracetamol, something else, 3rd option. So you're doing this. These 3 categories are the categories that you're using. This type of scale is known as a nominal scale. All right. The nominal scale typically will help you to classify objects into or the answers into different kinds of categories. Ordinal scale is all about ordering the data. For example, if you give 4 different brands and you ask people to tell which is your first preferred brand, second, third, and fourth. So they will give you number 1, number 2, number 3, number 4. Or for example, if you have 100 students in a class and there is an exam, and people do take the exam and they have got different marks in the exam. So what will happen? There will be a topper in the class, there will be a second, there will be a third, position per rank student. So this first ranked student, the topper, this is using ordinal scale, first ranked, the topmost achiever in the class, the second ranked student, the third ranked student, the fourth ranked student. In this way, based on the marks, you can be able to order students into 100 different ranks, right? If somebody is getting the same score, they will have a tie. So they might have, be tying for a particular position. So ordering, when you are trying to classify the measurements in terms of ordering, we are using ordinal scale. Interval scale is what you have seen in the lottery. There can be different intervals, and based on the intervals, we are capturing people's responses. We will look at interval scales like Likert scale, staple scale, semantic differential scale. All of these things we will look at after some time. Ratio scale is all about ensuring that you have a fixed starting point, and then you can actually measure it in terms of some units. For example, ratio scale would be hours, distance, right? Marks, currency amount, all of these, which you can always take a certain amount. So if you say a person is 25 years and another person is 100 years, can you find out what is 25 years out of 100 years of a lifespan of a person? Understand that you can make a ratio, 25 out of 100 is 1/4, right? Or for example, you understand that 60 seconds make a minute, 60 minutes make an hour. And if somebody told you that we have done this work in 30 minutes, so you can understand 30 minutes is half an hour, because 60 minutes make an hour, 30 minutes is 1/2 of the hour, which is half an hour. So you can make ratio of these kind of, measurements. So ordinal characteristic, the rest of the thing is there for your understanding. So interval scales and ratio scales. So what are the types of scales that are used in research? Nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio scale. So of using this scale, you can see that whatever we have discussed right now, and what we need to understand is to know which type of scale to be used in which type of a situation. All right. So if we go back to this, and before I go back to what we were seeing in the questionnaire, let us look at something else also. When we are talking about the measurement scales, you need to understand that there could be errors which are creeping out of the measurement, arising out of the respondent, out of the situation in which the measurement is being done, the measurer who is actually administering the measuring instrument, and the instrument per se, what you are measuring, right? So when we evaluate the different measurement tools, we have to look at validity, reliability, and practicality. We will not discuss all these aspects of evaluating measurement tools today. We will do that perhaps on the next class, which we'll do on theory, which is on Saturday, because tomorrow we are doing the case study presentation. So on Saturday's class, we will look at the different aspects of the reliability, validity, practicality aspects of measuring the in a measurement scale. Now, to go back to whatever we have discussed so far, so we have seen that there are 4 different types of scales: nominal, ordinal, interval, and ratio. Before we close the class, in order to ensure that you should not have any doubt for the portion that we have discussed in today's class, let me just take you back and let us have a look at the Ohio lottery case study. So here, what you're seeing is interval scale, right? Interval scale questions. So when we talk about these interval scale questions, what is it that comes to your mind when you see this? Let me ask you a question like this. Do you think interval scale questions can also be considered as a nominal scale question? Do you remember what is a nominal scale question? Do you remember what is a nominal scale question, students? So my question to all of you is, you are seeing the Ohio lottery case and you have told that the scales that I use there is an interval scale question. And you have seen the Crossin case study also. Okay. What kind of scales are used in the Crossin case study? Can anybody tell me what are the scales that are used? So what? Yeah, Anita. Yes, nominal scale, right? Why? Because we are saying that there are different categories. So if you see on the screen here on the first question that you see on the screen, if you have fever, what would you take? Crossin, Calpol, paracetamol, others. There are 4 sets of options which are structured. So you can have option number 1 as crocin, 2 as Calpol, 3 as paracetamol, 4 as others, right? So there are 4 categories, and because it is structured in this way, we are saying that's a nominal scale, right? My question is, can this be considered also to be an interval scale and vice versa? Ohio lottery case, Ohio lottery interval scale. Can you do you think those 7 categories can be considered as nominal scale? So they were actually interval scale. My question is, can you consider them as interval scale? The question here on the screen right now is that it's a nominal scale. Can you consider them as interval scale? It's a little bit tricky, I know. What I'm asking you is it requires a little bit of thinking, but a little bit of smart thinking will get you the answer. So I hope you have understood. So you're all saying that question number 1 to 4 on the screen of this crocin data, crocin case study is nominal scale, right? Nominal scale. My question is, can you also consider that as interval scale? Which is, I'm saying that, can you consider this as an interchangeable scale? On the other hand, quickly, if you relook at the Ohio lottery case, can you say that this Ohio lottery case is actually a nominal scale question? So is it possible?
Yes, ma'am, but I also feel that it is also ordinal, ma'am, because it is in order from 1 to 7.
Okay, it is in order from 1 to 7. So if you say that is the first category kind of a thing, right? That is what you're saying. Okay, ordinal scale typically will be if you are really putting it at first, second, third, and fourth. Interval scale typically will have certain, like on a ruler, if you have a 6 centimeter small scale, 1 centimeter, if it is on centimeter each, the points on the scale are actually equidistant, or there's an equal distribution of the points on the scale of a particular unit of measurement. So typically interval scales mean that there is a equal interval. So if you have 1 to 7, if you see on the screen, it means that the entire scale is divided into 7 categories, and between 1 and 2 category, the distance is also equivalent to the second and third category. All right. But if you have the first, second, third, fourth ranking, ordering, ordinal rank, for example, first student, gold medalist, silver medalist, bronze medalist, there is no definition about what is the distance from the first to the second, second to the third. All right. So you can consider, still you can consider interval scale to be a type of nominal scale, but may not necessarily be ordinal scale. Okay. So just have a basic understanding that you already are familiar with interval scale kind of questions. You are also familiar with nominal scale kind of questions. What is nominal scale kind of question? Nominal scale kind of question is what you have seen in the crocin case study. So crocin case study, these options, 1, 2, 3, crocin, Calpol, paracetamol. Have you seen advertisement for crocin? Yes, no. Categories, nominal scale. What's your gender? Male, female, right? If there's an option, transgender, 3 options, nominal scale. Okay, so the thing is that to understand where all you can use different type of scale. But for example, if you ask a person, what is your annual income? Person says 1 lakh rupees. That is what type of scale? 1 lakh rupees. What is your age? 26 years. What type of scale do you think that is? Can anybody tell us? Somebody asks your age. What is your age? 26 years. Somebody says 27 years. Somebody says 23 years. What type of scale is that? Is it a nominal scale, ordinal, interval, or ratio? It is an example of ratio scale. It is talking about age in years, which has a starting point, and it could go on, but typically lifespan has a certain ending point. So we will stop at this today, and we will continue in the next class tomorrow. Tomorrow, please, all of you, be prepared for the case study discussion. Thank you so much for coming in on time and participating. I'll see you all tomorrow. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you, ma'am.
Yeah.